Are you at all nervous? I know this is your first LAN event, but me personally, I feel like this is kind of a low-pressure environment. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, definitely. This being one of my first LANs, I don't feel as pressured. Feels like I'm just going in, playing a game, same kind of thing.
All right then, guys. Big question for me is, when we talked to you yesterday for your interview, you said that you come out to the States early for LANs like this, you boot camp as much as possible, and you try and learn the meta which might be picked up by different regions and adapt as fast as possible. Now, with your defeat yesterday and going into the lower bracket, looking to kind of pull something out here, do you feel like you've been able to take what you learned yesterday and really adapt it into a new meta, a new playstyle? Do you feel confident in what you're going to be facing up against today?
Well, pretty much the metas are kind of really mixed right now. So we kind of know what people are running and what we predicted the draft almost perfectly. It just came down to really playing better on the day, and they played better than us. So unfortunately, we lost that one. But hopefully, we can pull it back today and get some confidence and some easy wins, and then hopefully just continue the momentum and just keep going.
Kind of to follow up on that, you guys can both answer this one. Are you happy with the way you played yesterday? Because at the end of the day, you were up against the defending world champion. So I don't know if you want to walk out of that match, though you did lose with your head hung too low.
Yeah, I think we played pretty well, considering everything. Like, New T and I, we're both new to the international scene. I think we had a good performance overall.
Yeah.
Man, a few words there. We've recently seen, and we mentioned this yesterday as well, but now you've had the chance to really review it, a lot more Khans start to come out, specifically as a niche counterpick on specific maps against high CC compositions, also as a really good tool for breaking stuff like Fernando's shield with Commander's grab. Do you feel that Khan is something which you're going to have to really integrate into your drafts now? These new champions bring something different to your compositions?
Yeah, pretty much what's happening is a couple of the teams are prioritising DPS first and some are prioritising tanks first. So Na'Vi are one of the people who get the DPS first. So what happened was we got all the good tanks and they were forced to pick the Khan and whatever's left, so it's usually the Barrack. So you'll see that they're running a lot of Barrack and Khan, while some of the teams who are focusing DPS aren't. And yeah, so we kind of knew that and we hoped we had a strat to go against that. Obviously it didn't go so well, but yeah, depending on the team, you'll see totally different drafts from us, depending which playstyle they do. So if Na'Vi, for example, was the tanks last, and so we got some good DPS and the good tanks, but against the future teams, we can't leak that strats too much, but yeah, it'll just change depending on the team.
Yeah, I want to ask you guys to talk about what exactly you're planning on playing today, but with a lot of the roster changes, with Nudie and Rhino being added, I looked at kind of this roster and I saw a pretty strong core in Diggy, Chronix, and Joel's. Rhino, are you comfortable if you need to run a solo frontline to allow those three veterans to get on some hyper carries and really kind of take off in a game?
Yeah, definitely. I've played solo frontline a whole bunch and in the PGS back home, and I've played DPS as well, so I'm comfortable on anything.
All right, guys, one thing that we saw yesterday from you as well is that we had a pretty standard map rotation for the couple of maps that you played. Now, Kanga is a team which really brought sort of like the Ice Mines, the Timber Mill to the forefront of the competitive pool, saying, well, if you don't want to play them, we're going to learn how to beat you on them. Do you think we're going to see some more map diversity today? Again, I can't ask you to be explicit here, but
Yeah,
is wacky map pick something you got in your pocket?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a disadvantage for us only having best of threes. Because obviously then you can only get two maps. You get their pick and our pick pretty much, and then the match could be over. And we get a lot less practice than the other teams because we don't get to practice against the good teams and have time to build up all those results and work out what's good on each specific map. So when it goes to those longer maps, it favours us more because they don't know what they're doing, we don't know what we're doing, but we just kind of pull stuff out of a hat and make it up on the go, and we're better at learning quicker. So if we can get to those maps that people haven't played as much, then it's kind of an even playing field, and then we usually come out on top.
It's a cool way of looking at it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck in your matches today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the desk, everyone. It's time for our second set of the day between Kanga, Esports, and Chroma Space. My name is LaTigers, here with Pretty Hair. And once again, you have shown your non-bias
Support
in this match. But your
You're supposed to
caster.
bring balance to the desk.
Why are you excited about Chromaspace? I'll let you go first.
Well, I'm excited just because, no, for real though, real talk.
They were pretty nutty yesterday.
Yeah, it was cool to see them pop off in some cases, and it's always that kind of unsung hero story when you have one player left behind by the rest of the teammates that go to the PPL, and he's there trying to prove himself, especially without Eevee being as much of a factor as I'm sure they would hope for it to be.
Indeed, but these are the boys we're here to talk about right now. I mean, a great history here. The newbies on the block, though. Rhino and Nudie, the two young bloods there. The old veterans, Diggy Dog, Jules, Chronix, the core of what I think has to keep this team together, carry this team a little bit. They're the experienced guys. Nudie and Oz Rhino have never competed in a LAN environment before, though they said they weren't necessarily nervous to be doing so. I think there is that element of we're looking up, we're looking around for this leadership to come from somewhere else. It's not going to come from them just being straight up.
But I think that they managed to hold their own during yesterday's matches as far as like the new players on the block and not having anything. You always worry, I don't know, are you going to just go off onto the other side?
Who's that hype man, though, for Kanga? That's my thing. I want it to be Diggy, I think, but I think, you know, there's that element of that in some of these other teams, right? Hakate hyping his boys up out of their minds. Phoenix doing the same for his. There has to be somebody for Kanga when they're winning to let them all know how much they mean and how much they are winning by.
That's true, and even talking in some of the interviews with the other teams, how they've mentioned in-game having someone to tell them when they're doing well or saying let's go when things go to the wayside has been a big help.
Yep. So let's take a look at the lower bracket actually here. This is where most of the action is going to be happening today. As you can see, we've already played one of these matches. It's Burrito versus the Gangstars. That one was, frankly, a little bit closer than I was expecting, but again, I am a little biased towards Burrito. Dude, love those guys. The Gangstars put on a hell of a show and showed that they definitely have the ability to compete at this level. Unfortunately, though, we will be saying goodbye to them for the time being. Kanga Chroma up next, and then you'll see the rest of this bracket going to fill out. Renegades, Burrito, that should be a really one. What a weird matchup, though, that Chroma Space had first, the 4-0 against the Renegades, and then getting reverse swept, but not just in map score, but all the point scores in those maps as well.
Yeah, that was crazy. You don't always see that much of a swing back and forth between the teams, but nonetheless, we did actually get to hear some words from Chroma Space, so let's have a listen.
Chroma Space, Ekaz, and Coriol, great to talk to you guys. You play Kanga today, but I don't want to talk about that just yet. I want to talk about yesterday because we didn't get a chance to catch up after that Renegades game. It was wild. You guys took the first game 4-0 and then got 4-0'd and then 4-0'd again. Talk to me about that experience and just what was it like going up in that set and why do you felt it crumbled?
Почему вы думаете, вы проиграли?
I think they surprised us a bit with their drafts, with their strategies. They changed a bit their gameplay play style after first map. So I think we was not prepared for this.
You referenced the play style. You guys obviously inter-region a lot. Now you're playing, different people from different regions. Specifically, what about the play style was different than you're used to?
An A region likes to play two supports like Pip and Genos, and it's kind of hard to play against this because, like,
our meta is different.
Yeah, Pip is kind of breaking us sometimes.
So what do you plan on doing? And I want to hear a little bit from Coriol as well. How do you guys plan on addressing this? Because you're going against OCE, Diggy Dog, one of the best pips in the world. How do you plan on dealing with the pip?
Что вы будете делать с пипом, потому что Diggy Doggy у них хороший игрок на пипе.
Мне кажется, мы будем пробовать играть в 3 ДПС, и мне кажется, это ключ против 2 хилов в этой мете.
He says that we will try to play 3 DPS, and he thinks it's a key against the pip.
Not just with the pip, but Kanga brings a lot of other stuff to the table, a lot of strong players as well. Outside of the pip, what are you looking at Kanga, and how do you plan to control that?
I can't say right now because we got to adapt in the game when we see what they will draft. So I think when the game starts, we'll understand what we need to do.
All right, you guys feeling confident today?
Yeah.
Good. Yes. Good. Well, we're excited to see you. Good luck in your match against Kanga. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I also want to give a shout out to our boy F. Dot, who's been watching the LAN and decided to hop in with us for some of those interviews.
He's great at it. He's great at getting just sort of the feeling and reading a certain player and almost evolving that interview as it happens. And it's awesome to kind of have that around for sure. One thing I want to talk about is the way that both of those teams, I think, are approaching this match. Kanga and Chroma Space both talked about how, we have to sort of identify what the opponent's doing before we decide what we're doing. And, that's two sides of the coin, right? You either go in with a game plan or you try to play a little bit reactively. Chroma Space leaned a little bit towards the proactive nature where they said they are going to play some 3 DPS today. I think they have the roster to do so. But I asked specifically to Kanga, can you guys do that as well? Do you feel confident doing that? Specifically, you, Rhino, you're brand new to this scene. You're brand new to the LAN environment. You're brand new to running a solo frontline against some of the best players in the world.
I feel like most of the international teams have mentioned the difficulty of having their own meta within their region and then adapting. And I think the teams that have recognized that earlier, and I'm not talking about just here in the actual LAN, but weeks and weeks beforehand, are the ones that have a bit more survivability throughout the bracket. And that's going to come head-to-head here with these two very differing regions on Bright Marsh to start.
Kanga's going to ban away Jaguar Falls. Chroma Space take off the Ascension Peak. This is a best of 3, so we're not going to get too deep into the map pools no matter what. Bright Marsh, I will say, looked great for Kanga. That's where they started to turn it around. And again, you have to remember who Kanga was playing against. They were playing against Na'Vi. They were playing against the defending world champions. And they still started, although they did get swept, started to pick up a little bit of steam there. There was small things, I think, specifically from Joel's and Chronix to improve on. Ultimate uses, a couple of things missing here and there. But when it's Hexafire, when it's Guillotine, Zin, Spites, those have to hit if you are ever going to have a chance of taking down Na'Vi.
And there were a couple times in some of those fights where it legitimately looked like Kanga was ready to turn it around. They would get this great team fight going, great use of ultimates, and you thought, oh, this might actually keep going. But then they're going against a very impressive team that's not going to be rattled by any of those one-off situations.
That's the thing, and we saw that with the Na'Vi Fnatic set earlier in the week in the spring finals. And those comes down to the tiniest little mistakes, and the way Phoenix even said some little 50-50 coin flips that could have bounced their way. That's what decides those truly competitive sets. So Kanga have to hit that baseline of we are at least hitting our marks. We're doing everything we right at a base fundamental composition level. We're hitting our win conditions when possible. We're not missing any ultimates. We're getting a little bit of value at least.
But we'll have to see how it ends up going down in game number 1. If we see some more of that sweet potential and the fact that Chroma Space was able to do that against a team, even though it wasn't an overall victory for the set. But hey, that's got to give you some kind of confidence, especially when you hear the murmuring. You hear everyone kind of has their favorites of the international teams coming through. You obviously have a favorite on...
what makes you say that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a hunch. It's just a hunch.
Just a hunch. Well, I definitely respect that, and I think Diggy Dog looks super dialed in on this map in particular. So if they can get him back on the Drogos, if we go into this draft and we see 3 DPS compositions for both squads, which we haven't this event, and we especially have it on Bright Marsh, so I don't know that I expect it to come out here. But I think if it comes to that, if it comes to just these guys drop the plans and they just put up their fists and start to duke it out, I feel like Kanga are going to win that type of game. So in a little bit more of a structured environment, I think Chroma Space will have a better chance.
Ooh, no Pip, actually. Why do you think they went with that ban?
I mean, they talked about specifically in their interview why they were frustrated, maybe a little underprepared, and that's what the bans are for, right? You don't have to ban what everyone else. Ban what you need to ban for your set and your game plan. If you don't like playing it, and then it comes into you don't really are comfortable running this, and you're really frustrated by the fact that they can run it, it's exactly what this ban is for. Kanga, not super heavily identified with Pip in my eyes, but definitely have the ability to run it fairly strongly.
We've seen Pip on Diggy Dog, and while it was questionable because of the fact that there was a Bomb King there, and then he kind of was forced into playing the Pip because he is the Pip player on the team and having to actually
that was
ring
awkward
himself.
For me.
Yeah, if you have some other pick that you've just kind of annihilated on, and then you don't get to play it.
Where Diggy's not playing Bomb King for Kanga is weird for me.
I don't know. Maybe you'll feel weird after this draft. I guess we'll see if they go
but
with
this makes it easier for them. Now that Diggy can't play the Pip because it's not in the game, it's not in the pool, so I think this makes it easier. Whether it's Bomb King, whether it's Drogos, he will be able to step up and do that. However, I think something like a Shaolin would be what I want to see for Chronix. Shaolin and Zin are my 2 power picks for him, and he's going to be pretty key. He is been probably the most fluid of that core of this Kanga roster in terms of what he's been playing. There was a time when he was doing a lot of frontline. There was a time when he was doing a lot of support. And there's been, you know, now he's really fallen back to that DPS role. Cassie is another one. Frankly, that completely escaped my mind because it hasn't made it through. Normally, that's where we would see Cassie banned out instead of Pip. But I think Chronix is a great Cassie, and that's a great way to start this draft for Kanga.
Ooh, so Maeve has been the talk of the town in a lot of ways for many teams, but mostly with a lot of the EU and NA teams that we've actually seen compete thus far.
Yeah, now this puts Kanga in a weird spot, right? Because this is where you could potentially talk about drafting just 3 DPS, but then by proxy, you're just giving up Maldamba to Chroma Space, and you're giving them that combination of Maldamba and Onara, which has been very difficult to deal with. However, given what happened yesterday to Burrito, I think Envy exposed a pretty solid weakness. Granted, that was from Frozen Guard, that wasn't on Bright Marsh, but the way they focused out Chronix, Crimson, who was playing that Maldamba, really exposed a great weakness in that Onara. Her strength comes from, I think, that support, and you don't want to run in straight into her face. That's exactly the type of character she is. That's exactly what she wants you to do. You go around her, you take out the legs, you take out the sustain. I think Onara becomes much more easy to deal with.
And even the mention on the desk earlier, reflecting on that match yesterday where Burrito did manage to adapt partway through, it wasn't enough, but that was still faster than most teams would adapt. So if you're going against someone that's a little slower on the take, but they don't go with the Maldamba, instead they actually opt for the Genos.
They definitely don't, and now they have the Luminary combination with this Maeve potentially. And this just shows us, I think the supports tell you a lot about what we want our win condition to be necessarily. And also that whole thought process I just sort of offered up from Kanga's point of view could be potentially argued for Chroma Space as well. Terminus, while not the top tier healing sponge that Onara is, still is pretty damn good at soaking up and being a point frontliner. The Barrack will be hovered, Maldamba hovered as well for Kanga. But at the end of the day, I like Diggy on Drogos, I like Chronix on Cassie, and I think Kanga have a solid lineup. I don't think anyone's getting out drafted here, Gabriel. I really think this is going to be decided largely by gameplay.
And making sure that you are leaning into those win conditions that you've set up for yourself.
Uh-oh. And we saw a little smirk on Chroma Space's face. The emoji being hovered.
Is it here? Will the familiars be trampling upon Bright Marsh, finding snicky snacks?
She's had such a polarizing ride through the competitive meta. She came out slow but strong. It just took people a while to figure out where she's going to fit, how to play it.
And there's a very distinct way to play her that was actually competitive.
Right, very, very centric around one talent in specific, guys. But it will be the Shaolin there. 10th pick Shaolin, and that just goes to show how different these metas can be from set to set. Shaolin, sometimes banned, sometimes first pick, sometimes 10th picked.
Well, they love to get our hopes up with some weird picks, but this still makes sense, actually, with their composition. Let's go ahead and hop into game number 1.
Thanks so much, Gabby. I am here with I Hold Shift on the, not the desk anymore, the table, the screen, the cast. The gang's back together again, guys. We're happy to be here, and some interesting drafts coming out. The Moji bait would have been really nice, but I think probably not something we're going to see until the toot has been fixed, that talent.
Are we talking about Fnatic's toot or Moji's toot?
Oh, don't even start. We're actually talking about getting some biohazard suits in for the poor admins yesterday. We think we need a little bit of cover and protection there, but overall, the Shaolin last pick, I think, for Chroma Space, it's reliable DPS, right?
Absolutely it is. I mean, Bright Marsh specifically, too, there's a lot of that long range, and of course, those corners, those walls that we keep talking about where Impaler can be so devastating. And I think the desk hit it well. I don't think anyone outdrafted anyone here. It's just going to come down to raw mechanics, positioning, and just raw play styles.
Yeah, it's a little bit more risky, I think, for Kanga right now because they are playing into a Maeve with a Terminus, which is just something which is rather susceptible to the burst damage coming through from Street Justice. So there's a degree of concern there. But on the other side of things, I mean, you still do have that Fuselage Drogos. You got a Cassie who is one of the few champions actually in the game who can deal with Maeve really well. So Shift, let's look at talents.
Yeah, it is going to be undying for the Terminus, at least at the moment, for Os Rhino. And yeah, this is going to be interesting to see, I think, just generally how Nulup was able to position himself. Because again, that double front line of Onara, Fernando is very difficult to keep up as a solo Genos with the Luminary build. It's going to come down to, can the space be gained for Maeve? Can the space be found for Shaolin? That's the big key for me as you look at Chroma Space.
Let's take a quick look at Ovum's loadout if we can, please, on the Onara right now as we... we'll maybe be able to see that a little bit later. I wonder if the Inara's going into more self-sustain right here, but look at this Maeve going straight on, and Echoes finds one. Coriel actually able to clean up Chronix there with Ovum taking credit for the first kill, and Kanga Esports are forced away from the objective to begin.
And this is where I think the Maeve is really going to be successful, is taking a look at that Drogoz without having any protection, especially if Ovum can continue to move forward. That's going to be really, really huge as far as giving the space so that Maeve can have that freedom.
And also look at the Stone Bulwark in the Inara loadout right now as well, Shift. This is 150 health per second before that extra healing boost from, of course, the Earthen Guard, which means that you're going to have this Inara almost healing herself, allowing your Janus to focus on other players.
That's going to be key. Speaking of focusing on other players, that's going to be the same goal as far as the Barrack goes, as far as setting things up and finding a pivot point. But on the point, we do have Rhino here, and Echoes has already found Drogoz very low. Digidog is not able to put any damage on the point at the moment. Shaolin also taking a look forward. It's going to be damage over to the way of Chronix, who has not been able to do anything but dodge roll away, and that's going to be objective captured with 3, now 4 kills for the side of Chromaspace.
And Chromaspace are just demonstrating at this point why this is their map. They're executing so well, and as we do see, yeah, there we go, the kill just achieved at the end there by Ovum with Nuti being staggered. They're going to open up the possibility to push here a little bit more easily, but Chromaspace did something excellently in the last round, and that for me was positioning. A lot of pincer mechanics coming through.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to see out of this Fernando playstyle, is to get aggressive, find those flanks, and make sure that you can hit people with that fireball, and then the fire lance to follow up just to keep the pressure on, keep the heat up in the kitchen quite literally. We're at 1:55. Payload's still moving about halfway through, and this is just, again, a poke battle between the Cassie Shaolin. No one's really coming out the victor at the moment.
Dragon Punch is charged and coming through. Digidog looking for somebody. He finds the Fernando there. Ovum answers back though, and down goes Drogoz. Slam dunk, says Rhino, but Ineffable actually takes them out, and Chromaspace are starting to push further and further forwards with Kanga Esports hemorrhaging members. Ovum in the right place at the right time in every single circumstance here, is picking up kill after kill.
And Joel's actually rocket booted in to try to help out the Cassie, who was in a bad spot. And Echo's able to find 2 on the back end, finding Joel's, and then also Nudie. So having that big stagger is going to allow Ovum to get aggressive, which is exactly what you're seeing here. Although disengage will push her back onto the low ground. Seismic Crash could be used here though, Vox.
Could be a big one as well. That might be used to lower down the power siphon, but out comes Midnight from Maeve. The pounce reset comes through. Deleted, no longer a playable character. Around comes Digidog, trying to escape now, but locked down by Ovum. One more player contesting. Chronix is there on the objective, but Coiriel is around, and Chromaspace push because Nudie stood behind a tree.
My goodness, this is just really good play from Chromaspace. You're seeing the exact right timing on the execution, not only for Echoes on this Maeve to move forward, but more specifically, Ovum is playing so well when it comes to knowing where this Inara can set up shop and push forward. He's been a good key as far as getting the kill. 7-0-6. That is absolutely huge.
Let's take a look at net worth if we can as well, please. As with a 7-0-6 slash line, yeah, all of Chromaspace riding far above the rest of Kanga Esports. A lot of Kanga, well, actually only one of them sitting on that 900 plus credit mark, which is your level 2 cauterize right there for Chronix. This is really bad for Kanga.
Yeah, and now you're seeing actually kind of a stark realization that we need to put more investment just into the credits and the loadouts, whatever we possibly can. It's a nimble for Digidog. It's going to be into a resilience and a rejuvenate for Joel's. The cauterize is just not there yet. They need to find a way to just mob a point or mob a side, and the impasse wall already for Ovum's going to section all of this area off on the right-hand side, and it's going to let Echoes come through. The Dome Shield used in desperation, but there's still 2 down for the side of Kanga.
Dome Shield should have been used there before the Seismic Crash connected. Slow reactions here from Joel's. We do see a slight answer back, though, as Kanga start to rally, but Echoes just dive straight on in. This Maeve is exactly where she needs to be, finding clutch kills, and now the dismounts are starting to come through. 54% on the objective shift. It's 2 up for Chromaspace already.
Yeah, and as we get to above 60% now, no one's even close for Kanga to even touching. You can see them trying to move forward, but it's like they're moving through a swamp of molasses. Is not able to get there at all. At 87%, there's still not really any blue bodies nearby. There's one that will eventually touch, but you can see this Terminus on the courtyard side is already getting poked low. Same situation with Joel's and Chronix who go down. Digidog finally able to find one. He needs to hit this, but it's an Immortal to count it at the last second.
There we go. Perfect play coming through from Coiriel for the side of Chromaspace. Ineffable plants on the objective, dumps damage into Rhino here, who's stuck between a rock and a hard place, taken out of the air by Nalubka. That is a capture coming through as overtime does recede, and Chromaspace go up 3-0 in 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
Were you counting Inara as the rock or the hard place?
I think she's both, right? Because she's got at least 2 rocks in her kit, and she's kind of rocky as well. And so far, Kanga looking pretty rocky here as they're already being forced back to their base. I mean, they've taken the low ground, they've gone from high to low here, and really at this point, I think that Kanga just needs to stay up on those upper grounds and just kind of rally.
This is incredible gameplay from Chroma Space. Ovum hasn't died yet. That whole time through on the right-hand side in that little kind of tree plant house area, a little potion shop. You saw that Fernando was pushing forward, got low, puts up the shield, but the entire time that was happening and everyone was focused on Fernando, Ovum was walking right up, ends up helping out with 2 kills, Ineffable finding the killing blows on it, but still, this is such a bad spot for Inara to be here if you're Kanga. You need to get her away from your base.
Shift, big question for you right now. Looking at Kanga's ultimates, which are coming up soon, Scout is the only thing available alongside Dread Serpent. Dragon Punch is going to be critical for trying to get this defense going, but I've not seen an effective Dread Serpent so far yet this game.
No, we haven't. Now the Seismic crashes in a good spot. Will stun away 2. With the 3rd coming through, now a Meltdown ultimate to try to peel it away, but the damage has been dealt. We lost both the damage dealers for the side of Kanga, and now Lalupka's got one lined up, and he'll find Joel's.
Perfect snipe straight down through the map with the through time and space. Look out as Diggy Dog is searching for it, finds the Mave, so Echoes does go down, but Ovum is still alive, holding the front line, rotates out with Coriel as well, who's just cackling on the objective. This Fernando is confident in the security of this push, and it's only Joel's who's left. Shift.
It's not good at all. Chroma Space, they do what they did yesterday here against Kanga. They were able to pull out a 4-0 to start their day yesterday. They do the same thing here. And again, the energy is good. Diggy Dog just shakes his head. What happened? What went wrong? There is a lot of confusion, I think, on the side of Kanga right now.
I think that the combo right now is, first of all, the Mave got through, which was a really difficult situation. And Kanga were kind of ballsy enough in that circumstance to go, we'll play the Terminus into it, because they, of course, don't want Chroma Space to pick up doubles to Gala on a map like Brightmarsh. But at the same point in time, you're letting Ovum get the Brightmarsh Inara, which was a critical part of how they took down Renegades on map 1 yesterday. Chroma Space were just looking good, folks. And with that in mind, let's head over to our desk to see exactly what they thought.
A 4-0 to kick things off. They did that during their last set. I see an upset face over there. But so what do you think was going wrong for Kanga?
Victory's that much sweeter when you give them hope.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not. I mean, just playing. But Chroma's played dominant, and Kanga just looked absolutely cross-eyed that whole game. There was no coordination. It was very brawly. It was very skirmishy. It's like, my frontliner's dying here. Diggy Dog just thrusts to the back line. He's like, let's see if I can just make something happen in the back line. And that's a little bit scary, the fact that it doesn't look like there's a lot of strong team play. There's some mistakes coming out, like dome shielding to save this Terminus. Against a Mave, she just pounces right through it all and kills the Terminus anyway. It's not a big deal. On top of the fact that Ovum goes deathless on that game on Inara, he was absolutely locking down the front line. He gave his team so much room to play with, and such a great start, right? For the most part, they didn't even have to do too much. They don't have to put themselves in a bad spot. This is the man that wasn't picked up by Virtus Pro, and he's looking to prove himself here at LAN. Remember that he is playing, I think, for a lot of reputation and playing to prove himself to the rest of the European scene.
And sometimes it's your duty as a frontliner to die. So the fact that you can go through not getting killed at all.
KDA.
Yeah, that's insane. And then just having such an impact for the team.
With Genos healing.
Yeah.
That's why it's so impressive, because this isn't as a result of just gobs of sustain. This is as a result of Ovum knowing exactly what he's doing, exactly where the threats are, and how exactly what Alan said, basically, knowing where he can be safe, where he can set up shop, and where he can operate. And just because it's Inara, it's all knowledge, it's no mobility. You have to see 10 steps ahead what they're going to be able to do and whether or not you're going to be able to survive it.
And then even on the level of ultimates, just where you see a Dragon Punch come through, answered by Immortal. You see it through time and space, that clips one off, and then another Dragon Punch where you're okay with the one-for-one trade. In a lot of situations, you go in with it and you can expect to die, but at the same time, when the rest of the team isn't really adding any value, then it just becomes another situation where the other team is coming out favored.
Big hole again, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there, was the ultimates there for Kanga. And I saw a Dome Shield that got relatively little value. I saw a couple of Dread Serpents the casters were saying, have we seen any this game? And one comes out, but it doesn't provide too much there. Diggy Dog's Dragon Punches are just running into Immortals, and there wasn't enough of them. Dragon Punch is an ability that's supposed to be up so often that, yes, you might Immortal the first one, but then it's going to be up far and away before the next Immortal is going to be recharged to counter it. So you sort of just need to death by attrition there, where you just keep hitting them, but that just didn't happen for Kanga.
So what adjustments do you think that they really need to make going into game number 2, which it looks like it's going to be on Serpent Beach?
I think they need to target out Ovum. They need to get him somewhere where he's not comfortable, which is not an easy task, if at all possible. But Inara going deathless through Bright Mars is simply inexcusable.
Yeah. I don't know. Nara we've seen banned away in the past and everything, so maybe they'll actually opt to go in that direction. Maeve was also an issue that they weren't really able to necessarily hold strong against. But Kanga, we saw some head shaking and everything there at the end, so I'm wondering what their mentality is going into Game 2
and that's
as well.
a good question, Gabriella, because they don't lose a lot. And when it comes to qualifying, PGS, they're the absolute dominant team in this region. So I don't know how well they can play from the back foot. They haven't really run into a ton of hardship. They underperformed at HRX, but otherwise they've made every semifinal. They've had a good performance, a good show at every single event that they've shown up to. This is different. This is uncharacteristic of Kanga to have 2 lands in a row where they do not perform up to their standard.
And granted, they've had some roster changes going into this season and some rough times, but they've done well enough in the past to still be in that conversation when they do come to a land where people have that hope that they will represent Australia. But here today and yesterday, you can go into yesterday saying, yes, they're against Na'Vi. All right, now they're in the losers bracket, but you're going against Chroma Space, and you're still running into issues.
And in these best of threes, when momentum, when mentality is so important, I just still am wondering about who's that guy, who's that hype man for Kanga. I think DiggyDog in the past has been such a, just mechanical beast, and that's really what his job was to do. It wasn't really to conduct drafts, to hype the boys up, to keep them mentally in the game. Hopefully Hades is fulfilling that role from the coach, but he's only on the headset during draft. He's not with them in game when things aren't going their way. So mental fortitude is definitely something that Kanga have to have going forward, because this set could be over before they know it if they're not careful.
And when you talk about that role, the hype man, the person that's motivating and calling, you can't really force that onto anyone because you don't want it to distract a DiggyDog from having that mechanical execution. But here we are, Cassie being the first lock-in once again, but it wasn't enough last time to take care of the Maeve.
Nope, it's going to be relatively the same draft here, but the Maeve, obviously the Maeve ban being a small switch up there from the Leon we saw banned on Brightmarsh. And Nara still will go to Chroma Space, it appears. However, this is Serpent Beach, it's not Brightmarsh. Brightmarsh is one of Inara's best maps. However, she is still good on Serpent Beach. Will she be able to take over the game the way Ovum just did? Maybe, but it will be more difficult.
It looks like maybe an earlier Shaolin pick than what we saw last time around. He was actually the last one to be locked in during that initial draft. But still a solid pick, and right here on Serpent Beach, it does open up a few options for you with that vertical mobility and such that you can take advantage of.
Yeah, and Shaolin's great here because he's not a sniper, he's not the hyper long-range character, but neither is Serpent Beach. Serpent Beach is pretty much Shaolin's range, where it's just too far for those projectiles to be too effective, but it's just too close for you to want to pick up a sniper and still feel safe. So the Cassies, the Shaolins, the Leons, this is really their wheelhouse of a map, so I think that's why we're seeing Shaolin prioritized a little bit higher for Chroma Space than he was on Brightmarsh.
And that's why once in a while you'll see a Kinessa come through here, because she can get to those areas that not a lot of other damage dealers can get to, but it's not really something that I expect to see within this draft between these two teams. Instead, prioritizing the Cassies and the Shaolins, making sure you get a solid front line, and it looks like Genos may be the lock-in for Kanga as far as their healing goes.
Small changes here in the draft. Still the same champions we've seen in the previous game, but just in a slightly different order. Terminus Genos comes through for Kanga, forcing Chroma Space, and forcing may not even really carry the right tone, because I'm sure they are A-okay with grabbing a Maldamba with their Inara, with their Fernando. They have another very aggressive frontline. Kanga, I wonder, do they go for the 3 DPS on this map? I think it's a map that can work very well. I think Buck is a potential pick here for DiggyDog. It's just a question of how hard do they want to switch gears. The Leon comes through as well. That's the hit scan threat, and I think that's what's going to deter DiggyDog away from the Drogos, maybe forcing him onto something like a Xin or a Buck. I think it's really a much easier choice for DiggyDog this time around.
So still selecting a second frontliner, not in the direction of Khan, but Fernando. And then they know that there's not going to be a Maldamba picked up on the opposite end, so you can afford to leave that as your last pick. But now Kanga pretty much has the majority of the cards from Chroma Space, and figuring out exactly how they want to respond that. Is it going to be an increase in DPS? Are they going to bring another frontliner?
And it looks like they're ready to bring out the big guns here. And I got to be honest, I like it. I think this is literally it. This is win or go home for Kanga Esports. Go home winless. They're hovering Kinessa. They're hovering Buck. That's where I expected DiggyDog to go. I'm not surprised to see Joel's go to Kinessa. I'm really excited for it, to be quite honest with you. I think this is the core. Chronix on Cassie, Joel's on Kinessa, Diggy Dog on Buck. Those three guys have to step up. They have to just win this game for their newbies, to show them what it's like to win at LAN, to get that first one under the belt, to get the confidence for this. I think Rhino's like 16, right? You know, you got to get him going good. I think it's very important for all the young guys at this tournament, and it's time for the veterans of Kanga to step up.
And this is a situation where I am happy to see the Kinessa. If you are going to go for that triple DPS composition, that's where you want to go with that pick. But let's go ahead and throw it over to the casters for game number 2.
Thanks, Gabby. Once again, back here with I Hold Shift. And after that draft shift, I don't know, to start off with, it seemed like Kanga were going for some specific counter picks, but then they went a little bit off left field here.
Yeah, I think Nick hit it right in the head. Is that this is them saying, you know what? Let's not try to outdraft. Let's just play what we want to play.
Do the thing, right?
Yeah, let's just go do the thing. Go do the darn thing.
I'm really excited to see who is playing who. I think Pretty have probably hit the nail on the head with what we've got in terms of Kanga playing who, playing what, playing where, but really this comes down to a lot of execution, and it is Joel's on the Eagle Eye Kinessa. Make note of that.
Saucy. I like it. Saucy. I don't know if that's something they say in Australia.
Things again, Death and Taxes, Leon, pretty standard. Actually going straight into a Haven as well for Echoes. How do you feel about this?
You know, I like it simply because you as Leon have to be there to put out consistent damage, and if Joel's is out there picking you left and right, it's going to be very difficult to rely just on Shaolin for it. So I like it. Off the bat, you're already seeing that that's the first tag. It actually goes into Leon, and another one actually finds Maldamba. And this is interesting. You're already seeing Fernando pushing up, but says, you know what, I can't stand here forever, and that's going to be first blood onto Nalupka. Big target. Kanga needs to push on the gas pedal now.
You know, this is really interesting to see the way that Joel's is aiming on this Kinessa as well, picking up the Eagle Eye talent, actually going for body shots low, sort of to mid, confirming damage rather than trying to get those high damage headshots until about now, where Chroma Space are forced back and Kanga take control. And look at this. One snipe hits, Diggy Dog dives in, there's the wombo combo that you want, the 1-2 punch from Kanga Esports, and they're 63% on the objective right now.
This is looking really good as far as how their damage is positioning. You have Joel's in the back line, you've got Chronix a little bit further up, and then Diggy Dog chasing down everything that might be low, and now coming back through, trying to touch the point, but it's 99%, and you see the kill feed already rolls through for all three damage dealers. Joel's going to put down one of the suppression mines just to try to slow down Anara a little bit while they get that pick, and they will. Last player left is going to be the Shaolin, who does withdraw, but it's just not enough space gained as Chronix and Diggy were forcing themselves right into there to find the full stagger team kill.
So Shift, with Kanga having so much damage on the table, let's talk about Janos for just a second. We saw a couple of nice things come through there. There's really good heal, just manipulation onto a lot of different targets right now, but Void Grip was critical in making sure that Chroma Space couldn't retouch that objective.
Yeah, good Void Grip plays, I think, are one of the more underrated things that kind of go by the wayside when we're spectating, just because it is very clutch when you can pull somebody who just tried to slither away or is trying to withdraw some fashion where you can keep them from using that mobility to its fullest or forcing out the cooldown as a whole is big. Ineffable, though, it will turn around and find 2 kills, one into Joel's, one into Diggy, which is a good turnaround considering Coriol had just fell away. But now, can they find Nudie? Wow, great play from Infallible. He's on the back end as well. He's just found his way into the back line and moving his way through. Echo's able to help out with it, saying, if you're going to get aggressive, I will too, and it will be one last Shatterfall into the deep abyss.
So 1 minute and 22 left on this payload push for Kanga Esports. They're pushed about 80% of the way through so far. If they convert, they go up 2-0 here, and they could probably snowball this through relatively quickly, as Chromaspace are not getting much in terms of itemization online unless they hold. And to be honest, Chip, they're not getting really anything in terms of damage going right now. How do they hold this choke point?
Well, it's interesting because I was just noticing as you were talking, it's like they're not opting to move up to this platform. They're allowing Kanga to get up here. You see the Shadowfall gets up there? Yeah, exactly. That's not where you want Terminus to be. You want to make sure he's not able to stay on that high ground, because as soon as he's able to throw a couple of those Calamity Blasts and have that angle to possibly Shadowfall deeper into your backline, it's very dangerous. You can see him here, a nice little stun there from Nalupka, but he does fall to Chronix. That blast shot is so big, and here's that big Shadowfall we're talking about, right into the face of Fernando. Able to put up the power siphon to stay alive, and Coriol's in a little bit of trouble in the corner.
Oh no, as well. Beautiful just manipulation of line of sight there as well. Does allow them to stay alive. Kanga Esports forcing through a few kills go their way, and Ovim on the high ground is nowhere near the objective where they need to contest. Chroma Space are in trouble here. Somebody's got to get onto that payload, but with 18 seconds left to go, Shift, there's just respawns coming through. I mean, Chromaspace just kind of gave that one up there at the end.
And again, it comes down to where they decided to hold that second defense, as they had that minute left that they still needed a kill, and it was very passive. You can see this in the playstyle already. It's being mimicked in the KDs. You're seeing 3 deaths on Nalupka, which is almost tied for the top. It's Corey. The frontline trio is not staying alive, and that's what you need to have happen if you're Chromaspace. It's just, can they find the right positioning? This map has so many different angles where, again, these 3 damage dealers are just able to maneuver so freely that they have to be able to respond in some fashion with this Lian pick specifically, who just has not really performed as of yet.
So let's set the stage for this next objective. Chromaspace have full combat mechanic. They got their capture boost, capturing 4% per tick instead of 3 per in-game tick over Kanga right now. Where do they position? How do they take control of this objective?
You need to mob an area, I think, what it comes down to, and it looks like they want to go for this high ground, which, again, is super valuable. And Ovin will actually take the long route back over to just getting on the point. And, well, how do you not get out of the way of that, Ineffable? You saw it coming from a mile away. He gets himself taken down by the 3rd time in space, and now, again, one of your big damage dealers aren't there, and you can see Kanga is taking control of this left-hand side of Chromaspace.
Echoes just isn't hitting shots as well. That is a problem. Joel's is already boxing out far too well, and if you're not returning fire... Oh my goodness. Jules finds the Eagle Eye headshot onto Ineffable after the projectile has been loose, so they end up killing each other. But again, Shift, it's like too little commitment, too late. 75% on the objective for Kanga, and Diggy Dog is just out here pulling aggro like a tank in a... it's just a... What's the game I'm looking for right now?
I don't
MMO.
know.
There we go. I was thinking MOBA, and that kind of works too, I guess. But
Yeah, tower aggro, we'll call it that. Able to get the 3rd point, though, pretty much for free as Kanga. They have a lot of ultimates to use still, and it just comes down to when and where will they use it. Dicky Dog possibly with the Buck Wild in the backline, but he needs to find a way out. He does not have any cooldowns. Genos keeps him alive for a while, but Nudie also has to sacrifice himself, and now final the defense. Again, at this point, look where this payload is. It's stuck at a very natural choke point underneath this little underpass. If you're looking at Chromaspace, you want to see them get aggressive. You want to see them take over these walls that are right in front of that payload. Just keep yourself on the high ground. Make sure that Diggy Dog does not have the space to maneuver into that backline for free.
The problem is, even though if you stay to the high ground, you've got to be careful of Joel's and this Canessa. I do agree, though, that you're playing with an Inara. You need to hold the choke points that Inara holds well with Impasse, and that's just not happening. Up at the high ground again, Kanga Esports take control. They're playing so timid. Chromaspace are being forced back. They've got ultimates in the tank that can maybe hold a defense here, but 1 minute and 33 seconds is a long time left to push with the payload already at 50%.
And look at this. This is exactly where you want to be. And whoa, Fernando, where are you going? He sprints right back into the back line, and Diggy Sauce says, I'll take that one for free. Thank you very much. And now right back down the impasse wall. Again, we'll block one side, but when you have not even needed the Shatterfall for Terminus to drop right on top of her head, it's an easy pickup. So again, Kanga with numbers, now getting through one of the hardest points in the map to push through, and they have an opportunity to completely take control of the map.
Well, not with an Ineffable picking up Diggy Dog there, though. That will buy a little bit of time. You can already see us Rhino starting to come back again, though. But here's a really big thing from Kanga Esports right now. They have a couple of ways that they can make this into a conversion, and also a benefit, I think, from maybe not pushing this and forcing ultimates out of Chromaspace. This is do or die for Chromaspace to hold on. If they can just bait out maybe a seismic crash, maybe the Dread Serpent here on defense, they're in a really good position to hold, but Joels is making so many plays with these headshots, man.
And wow, look at this. Ovin will actually commit to get the kill on Joel's. I would say worth it, considering you had Ineffable able to find Diggy Dog as well, so it's still a 4-on-3 after everything is said and done. But here comes Rhino moving in with the Shatterfall. He does not able to find the full kill onto the Lian. Echo staying alive, and will be able to take down the big Terminus. And it's 20 seconds left, and man, at Chromaspace, this is exactly what you want. Obviously, it's a stagger coming in for this final possible attempt at the push. You have all your ultimates. You have plenty of space to work with. You don't necessarily have to use one, even in dire straits, because of the respawn proximity. It looks like Kanga might just give this one up. And Terminus will actually mount us all the way through. It's interesting. No one is able to dismount him.
I think that Kanga just kind of want to force it in, right? They want to try and get something out of Chromaspace. They should know that they haven't used ultimates in a while. They're kind of all up on full, and even if Kanga can just force one of those, it will put them in a better situation for the next cap.
This is interesting. Diggy Dog trying to force his way onto the left-hand high ground. Will actually get there. He's got targets right in front of him, both of which are pretty low. Ineffable goes down. Terminus is still on top of the payload, moving it, and now Echoes is in trouble. Diggy Dog finds the kill, and maybe you hear the go call coming out. You've got points to play with. A triple kill. The seismic crash has to come out. It stuns 3, but it's just Inara and the Buck Wild in her face.
And there's Diggy Dog, 4 in a row. Ineffable tries to get in, but is sniped out of stealth by Joels, and that is all she wrote for the Serpent Beach map. Kanga, they put a leash on Chromaspace and say, sit down.
This is, again, deja vu, at least for me, as you look back to the set that Chromaspace played against RNG to start their day yesterday. It was a very well played, methodical Bright Marsh, followed up by an open map that was chosen by their opponents that they just never seemed to have a positioning handle on whatsoever.
And it seemed as soon as Chromaspace were on the back foot, they didn't really know how to respond. They play very well when they're playing from ahead, but from behind, is this Chromaspace's deficit? Well, we'll have to head to the desk to see what they thought, and if that's the case.
So maybe Chromaspace bans Pip away because Bright Marsh is their home and they don't like sharing it with somebody and seem to really succeed there but falter here.
Yeah, and I mean, that's part of what a great player will do to a draft, right? When it's something as frustrating as a great Pip can be, and trust me, I know firsthand how frustrating that can be. It's something that you just have to ban out and you can't really work, but that creates that space in the draft, and this is how I want to, and this is how I frankly think Kanga are going to have to win this tournament, any games at this tournament. They got their first win under the belt, but it has to be that trio of Chronix, of Digidog, of Joel's on some comfort picks, on some carries, just absolutely dominating. They did have some things go their way, like that headshot from Joel's when the arrow's already mid-air. They did have Ineffable getting caught by through time and space he just shouldn't have been hit by. Those are little lucky breaks that I think are just what Kanga needed to get themselves back into the set. But outside of that, I think they played very solidly.
As a collective, there was a lot more synergy in this game compared to the first one, where Digidog on the Buck did a great job of locking individuals down, where then Joel's on the Kinessa to just go, pop, okay, I'll finish them off for you.
Yeah, if they didn't even get started, if they didn't get one shot by the Kinessa, Digidog was there. They had a very immobile composition, Chromaspace did. They had the Shaolin, the Leon, the Inara. This moment right here, this is what I'm talking about. This is such an immobile backline. Once Digidog gets on top of you, it's actually over. There's no way out from this. Double kill from him as he rotates over off the high ground. He hits the triple kill and then has the Buckwild left over in the tank to just do exactly what you need against Inara. Chunk through, cut her in half, put the game away right then and there. I'm really happy, actually. I was a little bit worried. The more time you give Chromaspace, I think the more chance they have of coming back in there. So I'm pretty happy that Kanga were able to put that one away 4-0.
And the way that it looked at the start of that interaction that led to that last wipe for the victory, it really looked like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
Just crowd unable to go anywhere. I don't have any abilities that can get me out of this situation. So I just look up at Digidog and say, end it quickly.
I don't know what you want from me. That was the biggest moment of that game for sure. And Chromaspace, you can start to see frustrations start to settle in. And that's where I think Kanga's experience helped them bounce back. They've been there before. They've been there at HRX. They've fought hard matchups before. Chromaspace, not necessarily the case. I think they have more fresh blood than Kanga do. So now it's up to them to be able to bounce back. Frog Isle is where we will head. And I will say, I mean, I want to draw comparisons a little bit closer to Serpent Beach than I do to Bright Marsh. So this is Chromaspace's map pick because they did lose game 2.
And we could see a lot of similar compositions coming into Frog Isle, some of the things that worked in Serpent Beach as well. And when you come off of that win in game number 2 as Kanga, and you're like, okay, this kind of just really aggressive play when we allow Digidog to do his thing, when we allow Jules to do his thing, this works. Even if you trade out some of the picks in the process, I think you stick with that strategy.
And I wonder now, do Chromaspace, they talked about being prepared to play 3 DPS. Kanga brought it out, looked much better on it. They had so many win conditions, so many things that could go right, and I think that worked out well for them in game number 2. Now, will they run it back? Will Chromaspace pull it out? We got to head to picks and bans to find out.
All right, game number 3. It is a best of 3, so whoever wins this one moves on within the bracket. The other one, it's time to go home.
I got to say, even though I am completely biased in this matchup, I am excited. Whoever wins, may the best team win here, but I am excited for either of these teams to go forward. Kanga, frankly, to almost uphold their reputation, and for Chromaspace to completely pave themselves a new path here and really show us how far they can go.
It's really proven to be unpredictable about who we have our sights on because, of course, we talked about Burrito coming into this. We've talked about Kanga, and then you see SSG, where we did mention a little bit because they were able to take a game off of Fnatic at HRX, but they've just blown it out of the water so far. And then now Chromaspace have had a couple of good games. The question is, can they actually have that impact past their Bright Marsh starts?
They take off the Makoa here, do leave open the Inara, and we're already seeing a change, right? Chromaspace haven't been first pick this whole set. They're going to grab what looks like the Ruckus here, which is a good start. Kanga, though, I think they have the opportunity to probably bring out Diggy's Bomb King here. Cassie is still notably open as well. Chronix, I think that's almost an auto pick at this point. He's just played it every game, and there is an inexcusable amount of comfort that I think comes alongside that. So Cassie, at the very least, will be hovered here. Bomb King probably doesn't need to come out yet for Chroma or for Kanga, excuse me. But I think the Inara is probably the smarter takeaway here. Chroma almost forced with the Ruckus pick to go double frontline here. No one really ever runs a solo frontline Ruckus. And because of that, I think it shows a decent amount about what Chromaspace are looking to do this game. And Kanga, hopefully they can identify that early enough in the draft and start building a plan around it.
I would love to see some Diggy Dog BK. I don't think anyone's ever upset to see that, but maybe a later on pick depending on what Chroma go for. Maeve is available once more, and it looks like they might be actually going in that direction.
I think you got to be able to beat this Maeve at some point. It's not an auto win condition. I think she does well against Inara, but I think if Kanga go again into 3 DPS, Chromaspace are hovering on Maldamba, which obviously puts Nudie back on the Genos, which obviously is going to make that composition slightly stronger. And I don't think Maeve does as well against a 3 DPS composition as she does against double frontline when she's able to just sit and eviscerate tanks.
And that can be a major issue in this actual matchup. But not having the Maldamba for the Inara, I think, is not going to be the game changer for you on the side of Kanga. So if you can still go ahead and just have Nudie on that Genos like he has been for the last game, even though he's on Maldamba in the first, then at least you have that consistency.
Homegirl's on the headset today.
Oh yeah, she's been. I see her walking behind them and everything. I'm like, I want to know what's going on.
I wonder what
the
inside is.
Yeah. Whenever I see the coaches, I just kind of want to know how that conversation goes.
Yes. I love what I'm seeing hovered by Kanga right now. Pretty much because Shaolin is not a Diggy Dog pick traditionally, and that probably means it's going to be Joel's, which probably means it's going to be another 3 DPS composition from Kanga. And again, can't stress it enough. I really talked about this a lot, frankly, even in their PGS qualifiers. I was saying the only way I think they're winning games at this LAN is if Chronix, Joel's, Diggy get on DPS and they step the hell up.
And they are the veterans of the team. You leave your newer players to do your healing thing, do your frontline thing, be consistent
Rhino said
in
he's
that.
comfortable doing it, so let him do it.
Yep.
Let the kid run. Let him do his thing. Let him. I think, it's not your win condition, which is fine. That's not Fnatic's win condition, but Thiel is still happy to do it. Thiel is still happy to take that first place finish. I think we've seen this composition and this style be so successful, and Kanga have the roster that is going to flourish while doing it.
Well, and that's one of the great things about the meta, and granted, there are always changes in LAN and between regions, but we've seen both the double frontline and the single frontline thrive. So it's really about what is going to work best for you against that actual composition. You don't have to force.
It's Buck, Zen, or BK here, and obviously that's not very definitive. Zen's being hovered right now, and I agree. That's something they need, something to keep that pressure high. Diggy Dog is a pretty, great flanker for Kanga. Though he is their great blaster player as well, and that's sort of the double-edged sword. He does a lot for this roster, so you sort of need to pick one, so to speak. But they have Chronix and they have Joel's at the mid-range of the Shaolin Cassie. I think that's plenty. I think this is an absolutely winnable draft here for Kanga.
Well, it's game number 3 of our second set of the day. One of these teams is going to go big. The other one is going home, so let's find out who it is.
Thanks, guys. One of the big things we often talk about in terms of drafts in Paladins is win condition shifts, and for me, Kanga just has a lower level to execute successfully than Chromaspace right now, who are putting so much weight on the back of their Leon.
Yes.
And also their Maeve. I mean, if you're running around in Prowl anyway, you're kind of doing leg day, but this Maeve is going to have thighs like tree trunks after the weight she has to carry if Chromaspace want to
I'm just trying to picture like that image of just a small little body with just these massive like buck legs. Can we make a Photoshop of that happen?
I think we should make a Photoshop of that happen. I mean, that's kind of what you got. If this is Echo's playing the Maeve again, though, this is kind of the task that you have ahead of yourself. And it is, and to a degree, I don't necessarily mind the Leon Maeve here. I mean, you do have Death and Taxes early against a solo Genos, which is very valuable. But at the same point in time, I mean, Kanga just has this tri-pronged attack and Inara on the point. They've got everything you kind of want for a Frog Isle game, tri-DPS, to go successfully.
Big key for me, I think, is actually going to be Ovum, who's going to have to play this Ruckus like a third DPS. He is going with the Missile Barrage build, so can he find Nudie? Can he try to keep the Genos a little bit further back at bay? Can he really kind of change those targets, use his mobility to make sure Diggy Dog doesn't get in the back line? Yeah, this is a very interesting build with the Refraction 5 coming out, but also the Crystal Capacitor. This is, again, it's kind of a hybrid build style between the defensive side of it and the offensive mind.
Also, at the ready will be super useful for maybe revealing that Shaolin and Heat Haste, but the big thing I'm noticing here is that Opium doesn't have damage reduction in this Ruckus's loadout, and that is the big caveat of how most PPL level players play Ruckus. It's all about perma damage reduction. It's about being tanky without being visibly tanky, and that's dangerous. Digidog already trying to force this perspective left-hand side of the map as they do attack, but Coriol is chasing. Chronix finds first blood, but Digidog is about to go down. Calamity Blast not up in enough time. Soaks a few charges, has the opportunity to maybe get some burst going, but Coriol's in a lot of trouble now.
No, and there's no Shatterfall still. It was a long cooldown wasted earlier on, and now Chronix has an Echo's in sight and will take her down just as she touches down from her little mid-air flight, and 51% counting up. And Digidog, this is exactly what you do not want after Chroma Space, is him in the back line. He does miss one of those last couple shots, but Chronix able to help come back and find Ineffable. And again, this is the biggest thing, is if Terminus is not able to be that one solid frontliner where Ruckus can use that damage ability, it's going to be a really tough game for Chroma Space. Really good Void Grip. It will be enough to create the space, and Coriol will fall. First point goes the way of Kanga.
So, Shift, I've got to ask you that. Chroma Space demonstrated some interesting, I say interesting, it's risky positioning on that first fight. Heavy investment from Coriol's Terminus to try and get a big counter flank off. Was that an overextension there?
I think it absolutely is, because he had nobody there to help back him up. You could see Shaolin and Cassie are both looking at him like, all right, you want to come in? The door is open. We'll go ahead and welcome you with open arms and open bows, and they take him down pretty quickly. Now, Digidog in a little bit of trouble, but he does have the Billow up, so he'll be able to get away, but Rhino does fall. Can Echoes put on the gas and find a way in? And there's a couple of nice spurted out daggers to find, it looks to be the help of 2 kills. And now if they can find the Genos for the stagger, it'd be good, but he is slippery in that Stellar Wind.
I don't think you can overcommit to this. You've got to be very careful about not getting caught out. Echoes is pivotal to the way that Chroma Space can turn around a fight with your ability to take down frontliners. And as a result, Chroma Space, they've got to hold something back in the tanks. Ineffable does get stunned out. Safe for the time being, though.
And at this point, with your Kanga, you need to find the poke. And it's a tough corner to peek when you have a bunch of missiles going in, but Ovum actually backs up a little bit further away than I would have liked to see him. Through time and space will open up a little bit of space here on the left-hand side for Chroma's perspective. Now the Heat Haze comes in, and as Ovum was getting focused, but again, that missile barrage hits him down, and Joel's will fall.
Really, really good use of missile barrage there from Ovum. Just the rockets making sure that reveal is on the Shaolin so everybody can focus them down. Echoes notice there is a Xin around here as well. Beautiful focus coming through from Leon at the same point in time, and Echoes resets cooldown. 9 lives does come through. Pounce is available. Could be used to relocate here. Doesn't confirm the damage. Newty trying to escape again, but they're just holding the kill for a second, staggering the respawn shift. Talk to me about the value of that on a map like Frog Isle.
Oh, this map is the epitome of the biggest teeter-totter in Paladins. As soon as you get yourself wiped, the table gets 180'd, and now Chroma Space could get aggressive if they chose to. Having that stagger allows them to further feel that security to set up a more advanced defense than where the payload is. They can fall back to the defense thanks to the topography and the different kind of foliage that kind of sits in the background near that spawn door.
Now we come up to 20 seconds left on the clock. Kanga Esports, again, up 1 point, trying to get this payload pushed the last 30% of the way through. Chroma Space moving in aggressively. There's a Dread Summon coming out of Chroma Space as well. Jules takes down Ovum, though. That's bad news already, but Echoes is on a rampage currently, taking down Digidog, and that's a big health of damage away from Kanga Esports. They do lose their Shaolin as well. The respawns are starting to come back through. Rhino on the front line does hold things down, and whilst Echoes is here on Maeve, they get focused down by Chronix. Cassie's burst cannot be underestimated here, and overtime could tick through.
Absolutely could. Good impasse wall, and now it's this again. You mentioned Ovum does not have the same survivability that a lot of Ruckuses are used to having, and a big seismic crash will convert. It's going to be Kanga trying to move on through. Digidog finds himself too. He's in the back line right near this podium, looking for a third potentially as Coriol's falling very low. The Enlightenment comes out, but it hits absolutely nothing. Echoes trying to chase down one, Ineffable will find 2, and it has to force out the reanimate just to keep this payload defense alive.
Coriol in a lot of trouble here. They need this Maldamba back. They need the Ruckus to take over contests as they do end up dying, but Gordon, the objective, can hold time for a little bit. Newty, though, through time and space could be used to convert here. It's only Ovum contesting. Ineffable comes back through, gets taken out mid-air. The burst from Kanga, and it just doesn't matter as Ovum falls too. That's the conversion 2-0.
Chronix with the disengage arrow is always so clutch. Takes me back to that Ice Mines disengage where he pushes off the last player in that Chinese set just to make sure that they can get the W on what was Ice Mines. But here, able to find a kill, a very big kill too, because that stagger, again, it was not just the frontliners that were kind of passing the baton of, I'm going to come in and contest, you come in and contest, but it was also the damage dealers. Not having Maeve and Leon up at the same time was absolutely crucial as far as Kanga's ability to get that last couple of inches.
Speaking of damage here, Shift, look at the charts right now. We've got Leon and Maeve in 3rd third and fourth, as you would kind of expect, but pulling very far ahead is Chronix on this Cassie. The burst coming out of Impulse is very significant right now, and itemization is very lacking in terms of Chromaspace. Kanga already have a Cauterize 3 online. That's a big deficit.
I'm actually really confused that Coriel going into Nimble 2 first and not the Rejuvenate, because he is, again, trying to play more of what it would be a solo frontline style, because this is a more damage-focused Ruckus. If off the bat, Ruckus will drop immediately. Echo's also dropping from Rhino, who hits that little stone burst, and the Spite came in and will zone away Chromaspace. So now what was 19% will get stalled out. Kanga's going to match that and then overtake it. And this is where, again, the impasse wall is so huge. Inara can hold off this stagger kind of push from Chroma for such a long time.
And Shift, the entire reason that happened, the entire reason that Chromaspace got so bamboozled right there is that Digidog pokes their head out around from respectively the left-hand side of their offense and just forces out a Midnight. They force out, they think a big flank is coming, so Chromaspace burn ultimates, they sort of recommit to defending against this Xin who's been a thorn in their side. But at the same point in time, Kanga just hit the gas pedal along with Heat Haze, and nobody's focusing enough to be able to take down this Cassie.
Corio, again, there's just a couple of instances, like right there, you have to wonder, Terminus, why are you trying to keep power siphoning when everyone else on your team is either dead or running away because they're low? You have to try to fall back. They need to make those efforts happen together because, again, it doesn't seem like much, like, okay, the Terminus died, but look at this payload. It is moving down this Frog Isle Highway for absolutely free. Echoes is going to try to contest, but gets poked out immediately by Digidog, who hits 2 of the 3 bursts. The third one would have finished her off. And now again, Ovum actually sneaks in the backline and finds 2, which is huge. He will pay for it, but it will be enough to stall out. So a good kind of counterplay from Ovum, able to find 2. But oh my goodness, Chronix, can you find that last shot? Dodge rolls in. He's able to get the triple. It will get taken down, but an incredible highlight play there for Chronix.
Great stuff from Kanga Esports so far, and they've made the distance over halfway in the payload push. 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the clock shift. Chromaspace, they have some ultimates in the tank, and this is do or die at 3-0. If Kanga Esports convert here in the third and final game of this best of 3 set, Kanga are going to pull out a win. But mid-round buys have come through. An extra 300 credits in pocket for Kanga. Chronix started off with a Cauterize 3 here, now already has a Haven 2 online as well.
Yeah, it's actually really big as far as the survivability goes for Chronix. Again, not having to rely specifically on Genos to keep him alive because the damage reduction. Digidog fighting Ovum again early on. That Ruckus being down is so crucial because now Digidog can move freely with no other chance of mobility from the defense to really catch up to him. He's got Corio right in front, and he'll be taken down. Will the reanimate come out? That's the big question, and it will. It's going to have to, just to try to keep this defense up, but a nice wall from Rhino, able to go right back in the face, and the Spite to counter up.
And that's just perfect. The Spite is all you need to lock down this Terminus, make sure that they can't end up using their power siphon to just buy time. Ovum finds one with Hexify, but Chronix answers back. Echoes takes down Chronix, so that's a really big pick, so the Maeve is coming in strong, but is Rhino about to get a backdoor coming through here? Oh my goodness, no. Nelubka goes down, but the respawns from Chromaspace are in just enough time. 20 seconds, 7 seconds last shift, and I think Kanga might just be able to get back for one more contest, but dismounts are coming through.
Oh, later, Ineffable gets hit by Digidog, and then a blast shot from Chronix takes him down very quickly. It might open that door for one of the damage dealers to touch if they have to, but again, just behind this, there's a lot of people mounted up, and Naro's going to come from the left side and be able to contest no problem. Very close was Echoes to falling, and again, the double front line is sectioned off from their healer. Can they punish? Can Chromaspace stay together, or will Kanga punish through and possibly find the 4-0?
Coryell retreats, tries to buy some space just to get a little bit of healing. Digidog in the backline is looking for this Leon. Oh my goodness, Enlightenment juked out, but no, still goes down to the Lubka right here. But Kanga Esports push it through as Osrano takes down the Terminus, and that is all she wrote for Chromaspace as Kanga Esports take the set 2-1.
There's a couple of smiles. How about it there, boys? That's what they needed. This is a big comeback. I mean, it's the fact that Chromaspace, I think they came in having Bright March essentially perfected. I mean, they looked incredible the both times they've played Bright March, once against RNG to start it off, and of course here against Kanga. A good showing from the CIS-based team. Obviously some work to do when it comes down to perfecting those mid-game inconsistencies, and of course trying to expand their map range a little bit more. But regardless, a feel-good moment, I think, for Kanga. They go down early. They get themselves the last 2 maps in a 4-0 fashion. That's exactly what you want to see from the boys in orange and black.
And I think that's just also testament to how well Kanga can kind of adapt on the fly. They recognize that, hey, well, triple DPS might be what we need to break this defensive front line of Chromaspace. And unfortunately, Chromaspace, they needed to effectively mirror in that circumstance. They needed to match the damage output, which Kanga was able to bring. But that's something that they just weren't able to do, Shift. And ultimately, that is kind of the mid-set adaptability, which top-tier teams really do need to pull out. But folks, that's enough from myself and Shift for the time being. Let's head back to the desk one final time for this set. to break it all down.
So I'll give you this moment to do your victory dance.
That's right.
Whatever
That's
you
right.
need.
I mean, Chronic's third game of Cassie in a row. He hits his final form there. He dominates. I think they lose track of him a couple times as well, especially that first round conversion is just as a result of, yes, the payload is so close. Yes, this Inara, and they're running into her time and time again, but she's just being healed up. She's just Inara in the first round. Chronix is just peak popping for her. He's good for 10 to 15,000 damage right there. You saw he was up 25K even at the end of that round. It was simply too much. He ran away with the game. You saw Leon. She tried to get in his face, but Chronix gave him the business.
It was just, quite frankly, insane.
I hope we have that replay. This is okay. So as this round closes, this is where things get ugly for Chroma Space. Chronix is hitting those combos from a distance. You saw him coming back into fights. These little peak pops from like mid-range are all good. Rhino is doing a great job. Rhino and Nudie, you have to say, they held it down very nicely as that combination. Many double kills. Diggy Dog provided so much space, so much pressure, but this really was the Chronix show.
Well, and that's the thing right now. This roster is a place where you're hoping for just consistency from your new guys so that the veterans can pop off like that.
Ah, there it was. I mean, those moments of like Mutu level patience, and then he just like hits the button, he gets aggressive. That was very reminiscent of like when Alan was talking about he dove in against all the members of QG, hits this like wild disengage and just steals the game. He had an incredible Cassie performance there.
That was
plain
just
and simple.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there is a better way to put it. Just really great way of executing that Cassie. But let's take a look at the lower bracket as we are making our way through it. Chroma Space, unfortunately, unable to move on. And that means that G2 Esports know who their next opponents will be, and it will be Kanga.
But, you know, Chroma Space, hats off to them as well. They're a new team, and they came through 4-0 the Renegades, 4-0 Kanga Esports. If they just have more time together and make more maps look like Brightmarsh looks for them, they're going to be a scary team moving forward.
I think it's because only one of them was wearing those flashy shirts that were actually in the video.
Where did those come from? We have to figure
know.
out where
No one knows.
those makeshift Chroma Space jerseys came from.
And I was hoping all of them would be wearing them, but then
know.
only one did. I think it was, who was it that was actually in that?
But I love those.
I think it was Nalubka. I think he was the only one that was actually wearing it. But hey, so that's your lesson, Chroma Space. When you come to the next LAN, make sure that you're all decked out properly. But we do have an interview with Kanga Esports on standby, so let's throw it over.
All right, congratulations, guys, and welcome back to this interview room after that interesting best-of-3 set that we just saw go on. I mean, first and foremost, I think we got to ask you, how are you guys feeling after that Brightmarsh game went so south so fast? Were you expecting Chroma Space to be as strong as they were?
I don't think it was them playing like super well. It was just us playing poorly. Like, we kept getting caught out in the library, we call it, on the left, and they just punished us for it.
Now, on top of that, I want to go something a little bit more recently. And I want to talk about what was the comm situation like when Chronix is going off left, right, center, inside, and outside when it came to that Cassie on Frog Isle.
Honestly, it was pretty calm. I didn't even really notice. We were just killing everyone. So
yeah, on that note as well, when is Chronix's point-and-click adventure coming out? Is that a new game you're expecting in 2018 at all? But no, seriously, guys. Chronix getting Cassie 3 games in a row in a draft like that, when you have a champion going to a player who's so comfortable in it, is that something which, as you guys see that go in consistently, is that sort of a little boost to you in terms of morale?
yeah, definitely. Getting comfort picks is really important that we've noticed in this tournament alone. So hopefully we can continue to get those comfort picks.
Now, those last 2 games, the triple DPS comes out, and I want to phrase this question to you, my big man, because in the past, it was Hades, the solo frontliner, able to pull off solo Fernando, solo Inara, solo Torvald at times. How do you feel as far as your role stepping into this squad, having that triple DPS be so consistent at the moment?
It's nothing new. We've played this multiple times back in PGS.
Carry on.
A big fanboy.
And yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. But again, congratulations, guys. You've always talked about, and we had this with Hades as well, how you guys are so adaptable to what comes through. And one thing that we saw coming out consistently from the side of Chroma Space through this set was a pip ban every single time. Was that something which kind of threw you for a loop? Because we've seen you playing a bit of Pip now so far, and that has been a favorite of yours.
It was. I wasn't expecting that at all, especially after I don't think I played very well on it yesterday, so I was really surprised when they were banning Pip, especially the first 2 games. I'm not even sure if it was the last one or not, but yeah.
Well, last thing for you guys. Feel good to get some smiles back on the face, get a W. Yeah, Russ shaking off, ready for the next one, I'm sure.
Momentum.
Good, good. Well, we'll let you guys get to work, get ready for your next opponent. Nick, we'll let you maybe talk with the boys a little bit, get the shades going.
That's right, guys. We're feeling really good about the rest of our day.
I believe it.
Thank you guys
believe
so
it.
much.
Thanks.
Okay, well, Nick's going to get some coaching sessions in here in a minute. Good luck in the rest of the ones, guys.